Solar energy is quite different than the typical approach. It involves treating the greenhouse itself as a collector. So what we want to do is let the sunlight in and then capture this energy and then conserve it inside the greenhouse. So what we've done is we've created the entire roof as an active collector. The system of generating a blanket of insulating bubbles, that's quite original. Liquid foam insulation is a very simple idea. The bubbles are generated really from water and air. It's mostly air. And it is a very cheap and simple operation that we hope could be transferred all around the world. These technologies can isolate the greenhouse climate from the environment, whether it's a very hot climate, perhaps with too much sun. The bubble blanket can be used as a shading device as well as an insulator.
Casey Gray here, and you are watching another episode of the Conscious Builder Show. And on today's episode, I have an amazing conversation with somebody I highly respect, and that his name is Ross Elliott. He's not here selling anything. He's sharing his thoughts, his experience, his opinions. And the greatest thing about this is that he walks his talk too. He doesn't just say what we have to do. He actually does what we have to do as well. He has been involved with green building for over 40 years, so longer than I've been alive. He's been doing this, but he's a licensed carpenter, builder, and an energy advisor. He was one of the first in Canada to be certified as a consultant for both the German and North American Passive House standards, among a lot of other qualifications. And he's built his own carbon neutral, net zero energy, LEED Gold / R2000 home. He has a straw bale office and a unique greenhouse, which is the first in the world to use soap bubbles for insulation and shading. Essentially, it's like a cloud that comes over the greenhouse. Really, really cool stuff. But these days, Ross and his wife, Catherine, can be found gathering sap from 240 buckets. He doesn't use lines, I just found out, but he's got 240 maple tree buckets around his property, which he gathers and boils, and he produces maple syrup from. Tell us a little bit about your greenhouse and how you...
So the greenhouse, we always like to mention that the day we were pouring the concrete for that, we had CBC on the radio, and we were, we know how it is with pouring concrete. You can't, you just got to keep your eye on the concrete. We were out there all day long, listening to about planes flying into the World Trade Center. It was that day. So CBC.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, our first anniversary, and we were building this greenhouse that was, it's insulated and shaded with soap bubbles. And we ran that for about 5 years with the soap bubbles in place. And the way that works is there's a space between the inside and outside glazing layer of between 2 and 3 feet. And we'd fill that with soap bubbles, just like dish soap that would be generated from a foam generator up in the ridge. And it would fill that entire space for the whole greenhouse, with 50 feet long, 30 feet wide, fill the whole space between the 2 layers of glazing with soap bubbles in about 3 minutes. Then it would just stop, right? And it would just sit there as bubbles, and it would hold in the heat or keep out it'd be like pulling a cloud over it during a sunny day. It would drop 5 degrees right away as soon as I came over top of it, because the bubbles are stored underground. So they would come up out of the ground and actually cool the building in the summertime, cool it right down, and then keep it cool, because it would be like bringing a cloud over it when it got too hot. In the wintertime, the same thing. At the end of the day, the sun's been coming in the building all day. warms up the soil, and then as it starts to cool down, you bring the bubbles in again, and it creates an insulation layer. So the bubbles are R1 per inch, so 30 inches gives you an R30. It's like pulling a 10-inch blanket of fiberglass bats over your building at will, and locking in the heat all night. And it would stay beautifully warm all night long, and it would never freeze. We had all kinds of plants growing in there straight through the winter. The limiting factor in the middle of the winter is a lack of enough sunlight. So you could grow tomatoes, but they didn't like the lack of sunlight and things like that. After 5 years, we put on a triple polycarbonate layer that was, gives us like an R3. It's not the same by any means, but we decided we didn't want to grow in January and February anyways. Yeah. So that's the story of the bubble greenhouse. Now, it was the first one in the world, and then since then we've got gigantic cannabis greenhouses, one in Las Vegas and one in BC. They're using the same technology. I was involved with them as a consultant up until the time I gave up all my liability insurance and everything, because we had professional liability insurance. When we're dealing with a project in the $100 million range, I'd rather not just be giving them my expertise with no liability insurance. Not that I thought there would ever be anything go wrong, but you just don't, it'd be like you running a construction business with no liability insurance. It wasn't a good idea. So I bowed out of it at that point, and I hope that they're finishing up their projects now. So that I got a background words over here. Do we still sell soap solution? We developed the solution that we use for that. So that doesn't leave any residue between the glazing. It doesn't break down, and it's endlessly recyclable. What happens is the bubbles are made from a soapy's water solution. It's about 0.6% soap concentrate, 99.4% water. That's what blows the bubbles, and then they break down and they go back to liquid and head back to the tank, and then they're endlessly, can be endlessly be regenerated. In fact, I still have a tank of soap solution that's buried underground in the greenhouse. I could hook that up to a foam generator today and generate bubbles from it, and it never breaks down. It doesn't grow mold or kind of algae or anything like that, and it doesn't leave any residue. So other people that have tried this technology have had problems like leaving glop in between your glazing and algae growing in it and everything. So we as Catherine mentioned, we did develop a soap solution that works for that.
Following the work that we did on climate control and energy saving, we became very interested in process control in greenhouses. This is really the key to optimizing the energy saving. We need to have models of climate, and these models have to be integrated, and they also have to be proven by actual data acquisition. At this time, we are also diversifying into computer systems and controls for greenhouses, as well as biotechnology, where we have a great deal of interest in micropropagation and systems to advance horticulture technology.